Our item up on the last item for our special meeting is 7.1 from Human Services. Steve Adams is the presenter. Strategic Plan Update, Loveland City Council, and possible executive leadership team priorities, and possible executive session for city manager performance review.
I check. Good evening, City Council. Steve Adams, City Manager. I'm here twice a year to visit with you on updates particular to our strategic plan, and also in preparation then of a request for an executive session to talk about my performance evaluation as City Manager. So the first thing I wanted to give you an update on was our strategic plan, and for some of the newer councilors, and just a reminder for myself and others, I wanted to give you an update on our strategic plan, what that's about, how it's developed, what we're kind of tracking, and kind of where we are at this point. I only have a few slides here, so I'd respectfully request that you hold your questions till the end of the presentation. Here's our agenda for tonight. I want to talk a little bit about the history, as I mentioned, some of the initiatives that we have, status review of. This is the fourth quarter 2021 kind of review of where we're at. Also talk to you a little bit about COVID-19 and what's going on with that as far as what we see. And then also, of course, take your questions. The first thing is, where do we begin? When I first became city manager, we didn't have a strategic plan. And so we had some initiatives on a dot matrix, and we put little dots and voted on different things. And we had two categories. One was programs, and one was projects. And so together, we kind of put those together, and as the programs evolved, we started to see some common themes. And so we called those initiatives. And so the first couple of years when I briefed this, it was kind of talking about items that were developing at the time that had led to action items by staff, and we called those initiatives that we would start to work on and report back to you. We knew all along that we really needed to take a longer look at this and kind of look at what would be next step. And the next step, of course, was to have a strategic plan. There's a certain counselor who's not here tonight who will argue with me. So if she's not here, she can't protect herself. But I will say, since 1881, we have not had a strategic plan. It's something new for our city. One of the council members will say, and I was here during that time period, we had a work plan. And that did give us some guidance for going forward, so we can say this is the second strategic plan we've ever done. But the idea here was it wasn't something that was here for us. And what we had to do is take the mission and our values that we had here, and as this slide shows, take that mission, which was here in place in the 90s. We also had a mission statement that talked about that. And I just brief our new staff every end of every month. And we talk about this because nowhere else is a great city like this where you have a vibrant community. Lots going on. People say that now about us a lot more. And then surrounded by natural beauty, I have to admit the full lake behind you, and also the mountains there. So people know it's surrounded by natural beauty, even out to the plains. And then the point we say is where you belong. So in other words, you're here with us. So we used this vision, this mission, and then council helped us a little bit with the values. And the values were initially established by staff, and council added to them a couple of years ago. And now one that they added was transparency and honoring the public trust. In other words, the council wanted more transparency in how we conducted our business. And they wanted us to think, we use the word stewards, but they wanted us to recognize that it was a thing that was important was we were handed something which was this organization and what it can do. And they wanted us to make sure that we were handling that in a proper manner as the public trust. The public has trusted us. They want to see transparently how we do our business in addition to the other values there. These values are so important that they are used in the evaluation process of all staff in our city. These are what we are ranked and graded against every check-in point and at the end of the year. So the trick was, how do we convert our initiatives for innovation into a strategic plan? And so on the left there you see that we had the kind of areas that kind of fell out of all of the discussions we were having, projects we were doing, initiatives that council thought we should be doing. We were kind of seeing these common themes that came out. And so in the discussion, which started here in January of 2019, what is the common pillars that we will use to guide everything that we do forward? And you see this wheel that was developed, and I'm not going to read all of these to you, but there was an interesting development that was here. Over on the other side here, we had this quality of life topic, and we thought that that would be a separate goal. And what we were finding is every time we were talking about one of these other areas, we always said, what's being impacted? And we said quality of life. So we put it in the center of this particular strategic plan, and all of this wheel around it all leads to the idea of enhancing the quality of life. So it became an integral part of what we were working on. So in these, we have a little bit of terminology, and we had some great discussions because we have a lot of strategists in our council. A lot of you have some great experience and knowledge, and we had to come up with some ideas about how to best say all this. The first thing we talked about up in the upper left-hand side was a strategic focus area. To us, those focus areas are the ones I showed in the wheel. They're the highest level of our strategic plan process. Then we had the other one, in a community where people feel safe. To us, that was kind of a tagline of saying, what's this particular strategic area, which we call the focus area, what is this all about? Well, this was the one on public safety. So what do you say about public safety? And we were thinking, when would we know we kind of had it? And it was, we feel safe here. It's a feeling that we have. The next one was the value statements, which were right below that. And we had that one, lives and property is protected. Residents and business and visitors and everyone feels safe and secure. So we knew that these would be high-level values that we had for this particular focus area. The next were the goals. What are we going to do with our goals? And the goals were great because as council described to staff and the community gave some input, what were the particular areas that captured our attention when council described a certain focus area? What caught our ear? And we said, yeah, that describes this particular area. This is what we know is here. And that's what we used as part of our statements as far as capturing the intent of that particular focus area. And then finally, the objectives and measures. And you know now, because we just briefed a little bit on this, we were able to finish the plan itself, and we came up with a list of performance measures. And we had a lot of discussion about what kind of measures were they? Were they measuring inputs and outputs, or were they really measuring whether we knew we had success or not in a particular area? And so we are in that process right now of reworking this whole part of the process because we told council, we got that strategic plan done, let us use it for a while, and let us work on those performance measures. And so that's what we've got staff working on now. Megan and Justine and all of our executive leadership team are in that process right now. We initially identified about 356 performance measures. We're now down to about 74. And so we've taken a big cut in some of that because some of those redundant, repetitive, they really weren't performance measures. And we also have added some more that were related to our budgeting area. So we're up around 92 or 3 at this point. So that was what happened with this. Here is what we did. When we finally came out with this and we saw these strategic areas and these initiatives, we had about 107 of them total. And so what our task has been is to take those measures and work on them as staff and undertake a process of starting some of these, working on them, and moving them from red, which is delayed or not started, up into a yellow, which is underway, and finally a green when we finish. So you see here these initiatives report for just this last week. We gave this update to me. And they showed before that we had 22 complete in May, when I was last here in front of you. Now we're at 24. We have 64, we had 59 underway, now we have 64, so we've increased those. And then the delayed ones, we are at 19, we were at 26. We've also compressed an area, which we could not really decide. These are projects we were just having a hard time getting our handle on. We've since done that, and we've put them in our delayed category now because they're going to take some more development on our part to go through. And so we don't have that fourth category anymore, just these 3. So despite COVID, despite all the other things going on, we are making progress on the primary planning document that the city had to help guide the future of the city of Loveland. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this right now, but what we tried to do is let you see from May, when the last time I came here in front of you, which was the 6-month kind of report, check-in for us, to December, seeing how some of these move. Again, red or delayed, yellow underway, green complete. And in each of the categories here, we go through those, and you can see differences in some cases you won't. We didn't make progress on some of these areas. But in each of these focus areas, the idea was to try and track progress over time to make sure that we were accomplishing some of the work that was identified in these areas, and it was good work. The other thing I would note that is an attachment 2 of your document, there is a report that lists all of these and has the very specific information in each case about what they are. It's called the Progress Report. And it's dated December 14th, 2021. It's attachment 2. And in that, it tells you exactly where we made progress on each one of these elements and what was done. So there's some narrative there. I'm not going to try and go through all those narratives tonight, but they are there. The other thing that I wanted to talk a little bit about is what's made us happiest and most excited in the last couple of months here as staff and what's been accomplished. The first thing is downtown and around in economic development. You're aware of a fairly large project that's going on right now. In fact, you did some rezoning for it, underway in our city. We had Bobo's, the manufacturing facility that came from Boulder, and you all made some special concessions there, and they are so excited to be coming to Loveland now and being here. We captured a cafe up the street here that was part of the DDA project. We have underway now the Elks facility across from the depot downtown. We also have the Draper, which is the old Heartland Cafe project. That's underway right now, being developed and looked at. These things have to come back to council, of course, but there's effort being spent in planning and design, engineering work to figure these out. And of course, the Cleveland Station, where you approved the bond issuance for, and that project is well underway now, and we're hoping to have that occupied here pretty soon. So that was a lot of work going on in the economic development area as well as our downtown. The second one is our airport. Exciting times for us. Getting some CARES Act funds to fund the airport project, almost $17 million. Looking at ways to do the design now, so be a world-class, one-of-a-kind type of airport design, and made to be expanded because there has been so much activity here, general aviation as well as commercial aviation coming into play. Avelo coming to be our carrier, starting one, and then a couple months later announcing a second route already into our community. So we're excited that that has come about. And also our continued work with the FAA and the design of a remote tower concept, the first one of its kind in the United States. We were chosen because of our high general aviation and commercial airline traffic, and also the ability of our staff to handle this particular task. COVID has kind of slowed that down a little bit, but we're excited about that too. And also the first of its kind in the United States, wingless flight. In other words, a bus that's now meeting us on the curbside of the airport. People can get their luggage checked through, and then they come on the bus, go down to DIA, go straight to security. The next phase of that project, which is now have FAA, Homeland Security involved, is a first of its kind where the bus would now be on the airport side. You would go through security again, but so would your baggage. You go through security, everything's checked, you get a boarding pass. That bus is sealed electronically, and they wouldn't tell me how else it's sealed because they said it's classified. And then you drive down to DIA. They go to a terminal, and they stop, and everybody goes up into the terminal, and you go right to your flight. That is the second phase of this project, and it's exciting. A lot of different airports and collectors and connectors are looking at how we're doing this right now as a state-of-the-art project at our airport. The next thing I wanted to talk about was Pulse, our high-speed fiber network. This project is now underway. We're about 50%-ish installed with the conduit system. You know, behind that comes the cable that has to come through, and then the connections in each of the yards or businesses. And so that's well underway now, and we've also deployed our, what we call the triple play. We had phone and internet, and now we also have video, TV. And so multiple channel possibilities with this, and that has all gone through. But as important as that, and we filled out paperwork, I think, that was about that thick, to the federal government to request that we be put on the same kind of list as Comcast and other providers so that we can have access to federal funding to provide funds to those that need help and being connected to the system and have a stipend. And right now, we are now receiving federal dollars to help us reach out to people. We send them to a website. All that's done by a third party, so we don't get involved in all that part of it. But we can offer up to $50 a month for people to have that service and be able to be supported. That will drop down a little bit to about $35, $40. Again, that's good for us because we can make that work with the citizens who are trying to get some kind of connectivity going for them, their children, and their families. Also, the partnerships we've had with the school district in 2 areas that are now operational, one up at the Canyon, up in that area, and then at one of our modular home parks is another area where that's operational. Both of those are ongoing. And finally, you just heard about our strategic plan for us. This has always been a dream. People said, what are we going to do about this issue? What's going to happen? And we started a little bit with a more weather-driven shelter. And again, this year, it wasn't like last year. We get polar alerts where temperatures are dropping into the teens or 0. And we would start housing. Now, I feel real comfortable that we're able to do that and offer it starting date in November all the way to March with the possibility of extending beyond that. So a big step for us and our staff and our community partnership to do that, and more will come out of that in the future. COVID-19, the final thing. I have to mention this just a little bit now. Today, looked on the website for the county. Percent positivity rate down to 6.2%. At 5%, that's very good. I mean, that's what they were really looking at. And also the occupancy for ICU at 95%. Of course, they've been up higher than that before. So we'll kind of see now with the new variant maybe coming out and what's going to happen there. But we have people and staff working remotely. It's working out for us and also for them. We also have a program that allows someone who has COVID to use COVID hours instead of their sick leave initially. And this is done to encourage people to stay home and to be with their families, either to take care of them or to be themselves sick for a while. And if this is also now to allow, because kids are more involved in coming and going from school, preschool, and everything else, there's more of a likelihood that somebody may catch it. So we want our staff to feel secure that they can remain at home, take care of their families or themselves, not come to work and get all of us sick too at the same time. So we used this program last year, and we're going to be using it again for 2022. So that now concludes my part of the presentation. We'll be happy to answer any questions that you all may have. Thank you very much.
All right. Are there any questions from council on any of the presentation or anything else? All right, seeing none, Councilor Olson, if we can have a motion. Well, first of all, Steve, City Manager, do you want to go into executive session for your performance review?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I respectfully request that.
I kind of assumed that, but okay, Councilor Olson.
I move that the Loveland City Council recess into executive session pursuant to Colorado state law and the City of Loveland Charter as follows. To receive information and to discuss personal matters, to include review, evaluation, deliberation, and discussion as authorized by CRS 24-6-402, 4FI, and Charter Section 4-4C5 regarding the evaluation of Stephen C. Adams, City Manager, and to consider and discuss documents and materials related to those personnel matters that are not subject to the public inspection under the Colorado Open Records Act as authorized by CRS 24-6-402, 4G, and Charter Section 4-4C3.
Second. We had a first and a second. Roll call on the motion to recess into executive session.
Foley,
Yes.
Sampson, Yes.
Overcash? Fogel?
Yes.
McFall?
Yes.
Marsh?
Yes.
Malo?
Yes.
Olson?
Yes.
Ball?
Yes.
Madam Mayor, the vote was 9-0.
The motion passes. We are recessed into executive session for the public. What that means is we're going to head upstairs into the City Hall building, and we'll reconvene after the executive session finishes. And we have no business after that, so we will adjourn when we get back. We are reconvened as Loveland City Council special meeting, just having returned from executive session. Is there a motion?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I move to direct our HR director to prepare the appropriate paperwork to give our direct report, Steve Adams, the city manager of Loveland, a 5.25% raise,
Which
I
is-
second.
Which is in line with,
which is in line with the staff and in line with what has already been done for our staff.
and in consideration of no increase in 2020.
Yes.
Okay,
Just a question.
okay.
That would actually be applied as 2% and then 3.25%, not as a flat 5.25.
I think what we talked about was a flat 5.25, wasn't it?
No. It's to follow suit with what the employees have already received. A 2% and then a 3.25. I'm sorry?
That has to be part of the motion.
Yeah, we didn't talk about retroactive.
I didn't talk about, okay.
Right.
So it's up to you, but it can be done homecoming on the 2% without being retroactive.
So we have a motion,
Second.
okay, a motion and a second. Are you asking to amend the motion?
I'm not.
Okay. Counselor Sampson, are you asking to amend the motion? The motion as it reads right now, Counselor Vogel, is a flat 5.25.
5.25 effective whenever Julia says it is.
Well, no, we would have to direct Julia.
I know, but I mean, whatever. She'll bring it back to us.
So I'd like to amend the motion on the table, if I could please, Madam Chair, to, for the raise to be reflective and applied in the same manner as employees received theirs, but not retroactively. So 2% first, then 3.25, so it's a compound instead of just a flat 5.25.
So 2% base as staff is getting and 3.25 for merit.
Right, as discussed.
Okay, so we have an amendment. Is there a second on the amendment?
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the amendment. Any discussion on the amendment? Roll call, please, on the amendment.
Sampson?
Yes.
Overcash? Fogel?
No.
McFall?
Yes.
Marsh?
Yes.
Malo?
Yes.
Olson? No. Ball?
Yes.
Foley?
Yes.
Madam Mayor, the vote was 7-2.
The motion on the amendment passes. So now we are going to do roll call on the main motion as amended. I think I've got that right, correct, Vince? Okay, roll call on the main motion. as
Overcash?
amended.
Yes.
Fogel?
Yes.
McFall?
Yes.
Marsh?
Yes.
Malo?
Yes.
Olson? Yes. Ball?
Yes.
Foley?
Yes.
Sampson?
Yes.
Madam Mayor, the vote was 9-0.
Thank you. The motion passes, and we are adjourned. I thank you, everyone.